There comes a point in your life when you stop moving on instinct and start paying attention. Not the casual kind of attention people talk about when they say they are working on themselves, but a deeper, quieter type that changes how you experience everything. It begins with a small shift, maybe the way you catch yourself reacting too fast, or how you hear your own tone and wonder why you sounded defensive. Then it grows. Suddenly you see your patterns with a clarity you never had before, and that clarity pulls you out of the crowd you used to blend into. This is where the loneliness begins. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness that comes from realizing you can no longer lie to yourself the way you once did. You start noticing the gap between who people think you are and who you actually are. You feel it in conversations that used to feel normal. You sense the emotional shortcuts people take, the avoidance they pretend not to notice, the way everyone performs a version of themselves that makes the room easier to manage. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and that awareness separates you from the flow everyone else seems comfortable drifting in. Self-awareness changes your relationship with the familiar. You revisit old friendships and feel a faint disconnection, like you are outgrowing a space you used to fit into without effort. You listen to the jokes, the recounting of drama, the predictable patterns of blame, and something inside you steps back. Not because you think you are better, but because you finally understand the cost of participating in cycles that drain you. You become more careful with your energy, more protective of your peace. And the more you protect it, the more you notice how few people truly understand what that protection requires. There is a quiet grief that comes with this shift. You mourn the version of yourself who could live on autopilot without questioning the deeper meaning behind your actions. You mourn the comfort of not knowing any better. Growth sounds noble when people talk about it, but in practice it often means leaving behind people, habits, and identities that once held you together. Even when you outgrow them for the right reasons, the ache of that separation stays with you. It is the kind of ache you feel when you take responsibility for your life in a way most people avoid because responsibility forces you to face truths that are easier to run from. Insight changes your inner world too. You start recognizing the emotional roots of your choices, the way your fears disguise themselves as preferences, the hidden intentions behind your reactions. You notice how much of your life is shaped by unsaid things. You see the wounds you inherited, the beliefs you absorbed without questioning, the expectations you built your identity around. This awareness gives you power, but it also strips away the excuses that once made things feel simple. When you see yourself clearly, you lose the luxury of pretending. That clarity isolates you in another way. You become more sensitive to dishonesty, including your own. You feel restless in spaces where people hide behind masks. You start craving conversations that move past small talk, connections that are not built on convenience, relationships that can hold truth without collapsing. And until you find those people, the world can feel strangely empty. You are surrounded, yet unseen. You speak, yet unheard. You show up, but in a way that feels different from the person others expect you to be. The loneliness of self-awareness isn't a punishment, it is a transition. It is the space between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the quiet room where you sort through your emotional weight without rushing the process. It is the distance that forms when you stop matching the patterns around you and begin creating your own. It is uncomfortable because transformation always asks you to walk ahead before anyone joins you. But this loneliness also holds a strange freedom. When you strip away the noise, you discover a deeper sense of alignment. You begin choosing people instead of chasing them. You begin valuing peace instead of stimulation. You begin noticing the early signs of trouble, not because you are cynical, but because you finally trust yourself. You stop trying to be understood by everyone and start building a life where the right people recognize you without effort. You grow into someone who is no longer pulled in every direction because you know where you stand. Self-awareness does not make life easier, it makes it more honest. And in that honesty, you learn to carry the solitude that comes with clarity without seeing it as a flaw. You realize the loneliness is part of the climb, not the destination. It is the proof that you are no longer sleepwalking through your story. It is the sign that you have begun the difficult work of becoming someone who sees clearly, feels deeply, and chooses deliberately. And with time, the loneliness changes shape. It becomes a kind of stillness. A state of being that allows you to meet yourself without distraction. A place where you can finally hear your own voice. A space that prepares you for connections that match the person you are becoming, not the person you had to be. In the end, self-awareness doesn't isolate you forever. It simply clears the room, so the right people can find you.